Adoption and expensive. Two words that do not always belong together. There are 120,000 children in the United States that are waiting for a forever family, and adopting through this option is extremely affordable. I'm Marcy Bursack, an adoptive mom of a sibling pair, and also the author of The Forgotten Adoption Option. Twice monthly, I will interview people like adoptive parents and adopted children who have been touched by foster care adoption. My goal is to find more forever families and increase awareness about foster care adoption, because if it were you or me, we would want someone to do this for us. Welcome to the Forgotten Adoption Option podcast. Today I'm going to interview an adoptive mom who met her child on Christmas Eve. Hi, Jennifer.
Hey, Marcy.
This is so fun. So Jennifer and I just realized we're recording really early her time this morning. We're 2 hours apart. I got to relearn that Pacific time is not Mountain time. That makes it so fun. But Jennifer, I think people are going to wonder, like, how does Marcy know this person all the way over on the West Coast? And you and I met through this online community for writers. And you and I kind of both saw a different ad that kind of invited us into this group of mostly women, right?
Yes.
So exciting. So we'll talk about your book as part of this too, which is so rad. And I think what I did is I posted something about my book in the group right as it was launching. And because you're a fellow adoptive mom, you reached out, and it's just been so rad to walk through our publishing journey together. Really excited to be able to talk about that, because I think it's such a gift to let people kind of peek in. So Jennifer, I'd love if you could share what led you to get licensed through the foster care system.
Well, when we first considered adoption, we went to the little 2-hour informative meeting to decide if this was for us. My cousin had recently gone through that process and they were getting licensed. And at the time, we kind of felt like, we're not sure this is for us right now, and ended up on a totally different journey doing a private adoption that happened very quickly, which was pretty crazy. But then after she was a few years old, we kind of started feeling that feeling like, maybe this is where the next child is coming from. And so once we felt like, that was the next step to take, we started the process of becoming fully licensed.
Wow. So you really knew adoption was in your future, and you went through the private route first. For my listeners, there are 3 types of adoption: private infant adoption, international adoption, and foster care adoption. The fastest and most affordable way to adopt is through foster care adoption, costing $0 to $2,500 out of pocket, and that's before tax credits. You can see a comparison chart of these options on my website, ForgottenAdoptionOption.com. You've actually done 2 of them now. You've done private and foster care.
Yes. And the private came first, just because that's how God orchestrated it all out. And then we had, and then we became licensed later.
So let's talk about your daughter. So interesting lead in, right? 'Twas the night before Christmas, because it was, and all through your house, you're there, and then you get a phone call. So can you share your story about how you met your daughter?
Oh my goodness. So it's actually kind of a family placement. We had tried working with a large sibling group, and that just did not go. It did not go well. It didn't end up being the right fit for some of the behaviors that were going on, and having a young girl in our house, my other adoptive daughter, and that placement ended up not happening. And I was so disillusioned after that, and was really frustrated, and was like, okay, Lord, I'm done with this license. But he said no. And we ended up doing respite care for a local group home, and had teenagers in our house on the weekends sometimes. And that was really fun and really great. And we had all these other experiences and did respite here and there. And I kept thinking, okay, and so now we're done with our license, right? And I just felt like God was like, no, you're not done. And I'm like, okay. And my cousin, around the same time that we were going to Mississippi to pick up my privately adopted daughter, started a process thinking, oh, you know what? We're going to just foster this little girl for a few weeks while the family placement gets sorted out. And 3 years later, she adopted that little girl. And that girl came with siblings. And that girl came with future siblings. So my daughter's bio sister came to live with my cousin at, a pretty young age, just right around the time that our Ella was being born. And she was placed in with another family at first, and that fell through. And she was placed with another family. And I think before we had her, she had been in, like, I don't know, from, if you count like coming out into the hospital as number one, she was in like 7 or 8 different places until she came to our house.
That's so many steps. How old was she when you met?
3.5 months.
Wow.
And we had to fight for her. Because at first they were like, well, are you really a family placement? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, when you adopt children, do they become your actual family? Because last I checked, my cousin, who's my best friend, has the biological sibling of, this little baby. By the way, we're licensed. By the way. And then they're like, well, what if you guys don't get along? Well, we don't have the luxury of not getting along, because all of our kids are best friends, because our sons are best friends. And then the older daughters are best friends. And we're like, we don't have the luxury of not getting along. So there you go. This is a family placement, as family as you're going to get. And then they were like, well, but we don't want to move children. And I totally understand all of that. Like, I understood their caution. I understood all these things. And yet I saw a little girl, in a placement that probably would have been just fine and lovely. But, I have seen so many things in her that, having her biological siblings in her life on a regular basis has been a huge thing for her. So, hindsight, I'm really glad that we battled it out. And by the way, if you want to get attention of a social worker, you call them in the morning, you text them to check in that they got your call, and then you follow up with an email at the end of the day, and then you start forwarding those things to their supervisor, and pretty soon they will pay attention.
Love your story of you had already had other relatives of your daughter in your family. And I want to pause for a second, because some people might not be as familiar with the word respite. So I write about this in my book as well.
Yes.
But respite is essentially you can temporarily take care of kids that are in foster care. And temporarily means like 1 to 14 days. Each foster family is allotted like so many days of respite. So my husband actually started our, if you will, parenting experience that way, because I had nannied a bunch. We'd taken care of my nieces and nephews a bunch, but on paper, I think the social workers wanted to see that we had cared for children who were in foster care. So we did a few different placements that way. And it sounds like something that you found very rewarding. So I just want to put that out there for people that might be wondering but not ready. Like, put your toe in, and respite's a great way. And I think the training, I know when my dad was taking care of my kids for me before they were legally adopted, the training was like a couple hours online. And so it can be a family member. If you know someone that is, you could offer to be their respite provider. So just want to make sure folks know about that. So yes, Christmas Eve, you have a really young child. What surprised you initially for caring for a child that you did not birth?
I mean, with my other daughter, we got a call. We got the call, we bought our tickets, we traveled the next day, and we saw her on day 2. And my daughter, Ella, we met when she was, about, 3.5 months old. And so, and she was passed to us at the little, DSHS building
Which is like Department of...
Yes, that's the Department of Health and Service. I don't know, something like that. And but it's basically, you know, the Department of Social Services that deals with foster care. There's like a big brick building in my city, and that's where all that stuff happens. Like all the welfare stuff happens on the first floor, and up on the fourth floor is where all of the foster care and adoption stuff happens. And so, you know, and we've been waiting, like we didn't know if they would decide to place her with us or not. But we contacted the guardian ad litem, who's the child advocate. We contacted our licensor, and we were obviously, you know, still contacting this lady, which, by the way, I mean, when she first met me, she was like, well, you are exasperating. And I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. We joke about it now. Like, I still know her. I still see her periodically around town, and like, she still brings it up, and it just makes me laugh. I'm like, oh, you're so funny. But yeah, it was hard. And it was like, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? And like, we're getting closer to Christmas, and we're getting closer to Christmas. And I finally was like, it was like around the day that I was like, Lord, if she's not with us for Christmas, she's not with us for Christmas, and it's going to be okay. And it's going to be fine. And if she's never here, it's okay. It's fine. I just want to, you know, do what you've asked me to do, Lord. And, you know, advocate for this little girl to be in a family placement. And so then all of a sudden, like the December 22nd comes, and they're like, okay, it's happening. And by the way, the family that she's coming from, they just want the transition to be fast because they're sad. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry, but also not sorry. And, you know, all the stuff. And so on the evening of the 23rd, she came home. And so our first full day with her was Christmas Eve.
And then you got to celebrate first Christmas with her, which is such a special memory.
Yes, we just have the sweetest memory. I mean, when she came, she was passed to us asleep. So she woke up and was like, oh, yeah, okay, so now there's some more nice people that are here to take care of me.
Aww.
And she decided very quickly that I was her safe person. And so I wore her for a few months before she really, like, she was okay being passed to kids. She was really not okay being passed to other adults. She especially wasn't okay being passed to men. And so it was a rough transition, you know, on the side of like, here I am. And I'm like, I'm never going to get this baby off me now, which isn't true. Like, she's 5 now. She likes to go play at other people's houses and be like, bye, Mom. So it was a good thing that I did that, though, and realized what she really needed, which was to have a really secure bond formed. And it took some time, but and you know, it's kind of interesting because when you do foster care, you have no baby bubble. I mean, people that go and do international and you know, private adoptions that are out of state and out of town, you kind of have this baby bubble where you're just there with your spouse and you're hanging with your child, and it's just this beautiful thing, and you have all this quiet. But when you have a child come on Christmas Eve and then all your family's coming, it's too late to back out. Like, you're in. And so I just wore her. I wore her through the holidays. I wore her through people coming in and out of the house to celebrate Christmas. I just, you know, we just went through all this stuff. We went through lots of sleepless nights because she just really struggled to adjust. But it was so beautiful. And I look back at that time and just go, oh, you know, that was so sweet and so special. And so she's like our little Christmas baby. And, you know, we're getting towards the time that is, you know, the anniversary of her coming to be with us. And, you know, the kids always like, they love to mark that stuff. And, so I think probably this year we'll do a little special, like, this was the night that you came, and this was the first night, you know, that you were with us and our family. And it's really special to have that at Christmas.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's sweet timing of things. So So before we talk about a little more about this Christmas traditions, tell me, so you told me offline, off the podcast, that it took you about 10 months from Ella moved in to being able to legally adopt her. And you've kind of shared a bit about your dynamic with your social worker and already having some relative of Ella in the family. So what were those 10 months peppered with? What was that like?
So it's interesting because little did we know, the day that we received Ella was the day also that voluntarily, the biological mom signed away her rights. We didn't know.
Interesting.
We didn't know until later. And then they were doing their due diligence with the biological dad. He was in a place that's, not in society. And so they're having to do some visits and having to say, hey, so do you want this? Do you not? Do you? And so we were kind of like waiting to see what would happen with that. And eventually all of those papers were signed fairly quickly. But then there were other siblings in foster care at the same time. And they thought, well, why don't we just do the adoption for all of them together? And it took some extra time for paper. I think probably if we had just been doing our own, it would have been a miraculously fast finalization. But, we had this blessing that does not happen all the time, for sure, of knowing that she was legally free. And for a while we didn't know, but she was. And
yeah, but so early in the story, people don't get that sort of
very unusual
information.
Yeah,
very much so.
Very unusual. And so then we were waiting for all of these bits and pieces of paperwork to, be put together so that her, so that all the adoptions could be finalized on the same day. And so then there was this delay and that delay. And, there was part of that was frustrating, but also like when you have, a child that needs this, more intensive connection from you and from your family to really feel settled and comfortable in your house when they've had so many transitions. And people say, oh, they're just a baby. And I'm like, oh, well, when a baby falls asleep in one place and then wakes up in another that many times, they start to go, what is my life?
Mm-hmm.
And what are all these people doing to me? And, we are created for connection. We are created to bond with the parents that God has given us. And then when that gets broken, it is a challenge, but it's a worthy challenge to spend the time and spend the connection, to spend the energy on that connection to help those kiddos feel settled and at peace. And, and it's an up and down thing, but, now that we're, 5 years into this journey, I'm like, okay, I'm really seeing the fruit of it now, especially since we've had to slow down for the last, 9 months. Her connection with her sister is way stronger. Her connection with her brother, even who's a teenager, way stronger, and with us. And it's actually been kind of interestingly helpful to have this slowdown for her, kind of like finishing off that piece of feeling settled.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because I was talking to my son the other day as part of my book club and about just these different things that can feel normal as someone going through the foster care system as the child, but in real life it's unhealthy. And he was like, Mom, I didn't realize moving all the time wasn't like a thing everyone didn't do. Like I thought that's what you just did. Like I moved 7 times and I thought that was normal. And so just for Ella to have that same sort of like, oh, I don't have to wake up in someone else's arms tomorrow morning. That's such a gift. So as we kind of wrap up talking about foster care, what if you could like change the world and have one thing corrected that you wish others knew about foster care adoption? What do you wish others knew about foster care adoption?
You know, there's such a mixed bag with foster care adoption, but I just wish that people would hear the long-term stories, that they wouldn't focus so much on the short term of like, you have to like that anyone considering this needs to start thinking that this is a long game.
It's a life, right? It's a lifetime.
It's a lifetime. It is a lifetime. And there are things that happen, more siblings happen. And what do you do with that? You have there are all kinds of things that are moving and, outside of your family. And yet none of that really matters, because in the grand scheme of things, because what does matter is that, that you are doing the work, that you are showing these precious people that they belong, that they are loved, that you will do anything for them to protect them and to show them love. And that, that is just the most important thing. I just feel like if people really understood like the amazing benefit to you and to like just the world at large, when we take a person who has been thrown around and we show them what love really looks like in a healthy way, it changes everything.
It does for that generation and then the future generation.
Mm-hmm.
Fully agree with you. So Jennifer, as we wrap up talking about Christmas and the holiday season, you've done something really unique, and you've written a book specifically highlighting Christmas. So tell us about this new family tradition that you're helping others participate in.
Yeah. So for the last 10 years, I've read a chapter of Luke a day in the month of December. And it's awesome because you start the month and you read about the, what happened right before Jesus was born, and then he's born, and you walk through his ministry life, and then you get to experience his resurrection on Christmas Eve. And there's something about going through that you get to Christmas Day, and it doesn't really matter what your circumstances are. You have a chance of experiencing true peace in a way that you might not have had if you hadn't been really diving in and spending time in the Bible every single day. And, I wrote this book for women, to be honest. But what I'm finding is that because I made this book sort of a multimedia presentation, each chapter starts with a full color image. The first day actually opens with this particular daughter in a position of prayer. And it's kind of funny because she was not prayerful when I started trying to take this picture, because she just wanted to go swimming at her sister's house. And she had a bathing suit under that beautiful white dress. And I have some really funny pictures of her looking super grumpy. But then, I finally looked at her and said, hey, how would you feel if Jesus was standing right in front of you and you were praying and you could see him and he was standing right here? And her beautiful face did her little light up smile, and I click. And I'm like, okay, I think I got it. Just go. Because at this point, I'm like, oh, her curly hair is going to get all messed up in the pool. And But she took off like a shot. And, but it was just such a precious, sweet little moment that opens the first day. So each day you open a scriptural gift. And you open and there's a picture. Some of them are with my children. A bunch of them are from my travels to Israel. And then there's a little teaching, there's prayer, there's a prompt for quietude and journaling. And then it ends with a worship song recommendation. Then on my website, if you subscribe, there's a recipe book that I made with my kids. That's a freebie. And there's like a True Peace merchandise little shop. And, but make sure you send yourself a sample of the Kindle, because to maintain all of the pretty interior and the color and the colorful pictures, I had to choose a format that is not necessarily opened by all Kindle devices.
This was great. I'm so glad that we've been able to cross paths as authors, but I love being able to partner together to talk about foster care adoption and to help let people peek in, because I find that so oftentimes there's a very low level of knowledge. People just don't know. And by being able to share the journey your family has taken, I think it's really going to let people kind of take a taste of what their family could do. So I really appreciate it. And thanks for giving us some insight into your new holiday tradition in your book. As a listener of the Forgotten Adoption Option podcast, you are helping raise awareness about foster care adoption and the 120,000 children who are waiting for a forever family. You can also help raise awareness by leaving a review, subscribing, sharing, talking about, and liking this podcast. If you'd like more information on adopting a child or sibling set through the foster care system, visit my website, ForgottenAdoptionOption.com. There you will find out how to get started, and you can even order a copy of my book, The Forgotten Adoption Option, which will guide you through the entire process, and it is available in paperback, audio, and ebook. I welcome you to reach out with questions, comments, and your own story. I would love to hear if you're signing up for training or where you are in the adoption process. You can connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just search for Marcy Bursack. Thank you for tuning in, caring, and sharing, because every child deserves a family.